Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Frank here. Starting to work on the Cadet all-terrain forklift. So this is the donor tractor, and in the last video I brought this in the shop. This is one out of my collection. I have a number. If anybody's concerned about the fact that I'm going to take a perfectly good, nicely restored tractor and cut it up, you can feel good about it because it was, when I found it, it was headed to the scrap pile. It was a total basket case. And it actually was missing parts that I have replaced. So starting with a nice tractor to begin with will save me a lot of the effort to paint and restore parts of it that I would have to do as I finish the project. So some of this stuff will already be done. I won't have to do as much painting, like the hood and the front grille and everything is already done. So I don't have to worry about that. Tires are already on it, the wheels are already done. So I've already got a little bit of progress toward the final project because I am not starting from a total basket case. Today's video is going to be a little bit about the design parameters and the weight distribution, because that's the biggest factor, is weight distribution. Because building a forklift naturally cantilevers a load out beyond the axle. And what have I got here? I got a dog who's itching for some. That's Butchie. Brew-brew's outside. So, oh, well, he was outside. He heard me. There he comes. So, because the load for forklift is cantilevered out over the axle, in front of the axle, in this case it's going to be out past the rear axle. I'm going to try to make it as close as possible to the rear axle, obviously to reduce the cantilever, because the further out the weight is past the axle, the more counterweight is needed to balance it out. So that's my good brew. All right, you guys. All right, so we'll do just a little balance calculation here. I've got a rear wheel and then a front wheel, and the distance between these is 44 inches. The tractor weighs about 700 pounds, and you've got a lot of weight concentrated in the rear axle, transmission assembly, and also in the engine. And the engine sits, here. And then you've got an operator. When we reconfigure this, the operator will be right behind the engine, or right in front of the engine if this becomes the front of the tractor. So I'm going to say that the 700 pounds, and this is for simplification, 700 pounds is approximately in the middle. So it's 22 inches from the center line of the rear axle. The mast will be built, since the rear axle has a housing, like that, the mast will be between the wheels, or at least part of it will be between the wheels. And the carriage will be behind that, and we'll have the forks. And I'm thinking 36 inch forks. The wheel is 24 inches in diameter, so this is 12 inches here out to there. And then if this is 36 inches, so 18 inches to the center of this. So 18 plus 12 gives us 30 inches. So the center line of the load will be 30 inches from the center line of the rear wheel. And we have 700 pounds in here, 22 inches. The question is how much, and with the 700 pounds of the tractor right here, that we're going to say that's 22 inches from the center line here. Now the mast will weigh some too, so we need to say 12 inches back, 12 inches back, 12 inches behind the center line. We're going to put 200 pounds, and we'll just say the mast weighs 200 pounds, mast and carriage. And so we're concentrated with the load at 30 inches, the mast at 200 pounds at 12 inches. What is the, how is this going to balance? What's the maximum weight I can lift back here with the, now the weight would be on the forks, but the center of the weight is what we're concerned about. We're going to say it's evenly distributed. What weight can be lifted without any changes? Okay, so to do a force balance analysis here, we've got 700 pounds spaced 22 inches from this fulcrum. So 22 inches is 1.8 feet. So 700 times 1.8 equals 1260. And since that's feet times weight, so that's 1260 foot-pounds of torque around this point. So we got 1260 pounds on this side. So we're going to have a fulcrum with a lever like this. So we got 1260 pushing down here, and then out here 1 foot away we're going to have the mast, which is going to weigh about 200 pounds. So that's 12 inches away. So that's 200 foot-pounds. And then what load out here 30 inches away, or 2.5 feet? So this is the question, what load can be put out here to and have this balance? So if we have 1260 pounds here, 200 pounds here, we can do some subtraction. So if we can cancel that out by changing that to 1060 pounds, and then that gives us what load out here. So if we take 1060 divide by 2.5, which is the distance this load would be, 1060 divided by 2.5, 424. So without making any changes or adding weight to the tractor, it should be able to pick up centered on a 36-inch fork with the load, the center of the load spaced 30 inches away from the center line of the rear axle, approximately 400 pounds. Now my objective is to get to 1,000 pounds centered at that point. So to get 1,000 pounds at that point, I would need to add more weight at some point on the other side of the fulcrum. I need to add 600 more pounds, and since that's 600 pounds spaced 2.5 feet away, 600 times 2.5, that's 1,500 foot-pounds on the rear. I need to add 1,500 foot-pounds on the front. So if I went out 5 feet to the front and added 300 pounds, then that would give me 5 feet times 300 pounds would give me 1,500 foot-pounds. So the two axles are spaced 44 inches. which is substantially less. I mean, it's just under 4 feet. So at some distance beyond that, if I go a foot out in front of the tractor and put 300 pounds, so I go 5 feet and put 300 more pounds, that would give me 1,500 foot-pounds on this side of the equation, this side of the axle. So it looks like without adding any weight, I can pick up 400 pounds. And this is not including the weight of the operator. So you wouldn't want to include the weight of the operator because you'd want to be able to step off the tractor and not have the front wheels, for example, come off the ground. But the weight of the operator, becomes a safety factor, in the calculation. So as this stands right now, without modifying the tractor at all, I can pick up a couple hundred, 300 or 400 pounds, and have the tractor still be balanced. And if I want to pick up 1,000 pounds, if I want to pick up another 600 pounds centered here, then I would need to add 300 pounds 5 feet out, or 500 pounds 3 feet out. So I mean, I could come in the middle here and underneath the tractor add 500 pounds of weight, which is probably doable. There's no reason you couldn't add weight to the underside of the tractor. There's enough ground clearance that you could add some weight there. So I think the plan is to build it with its existing weight distribution. It should be able to support the weight of the mast and a couple hundred pounds behind that, and then come back afterwards and decide where to put the additional weight. I could hang weights out front, and there's some appeal to building a weight bracket and hanging weights out front, because you can always add more weight to it so that you could increase the capacity of the forklift, and it also allows for some adjustment should the mast weigh more than 200 pounds or be more than 12 inches away. Also the weight of the carriage and the forks needs to be considered. So obviously this is a rough calculation as far as weight distribution is concerned, but it does give me a starting point to understand what the weight balance considerations are. Now, if you think about the Cub Cadet tractors, they were designed to have a rear lift and designed to lift a rototiller, which weighs almost 200 pounds and is 4 feet, behind the tractor. So 3 feet behind the tractor. So it's designed to handle some load behind the rear axle and can pick up 300 or 400 pounds pretty easily. So it's not surprising that we can pick up 300 or 400 pounds back here without causing any problem with the current weight of the weight distribution of the tractor itself. You do have the motor here, which weighs over 100 pounds. The rest of the frame, the front axle, I mean, the weight distribution is substantial. So that's the plan. We're going to build it with its existing weight. We'll see how close we get to the 400 pound capacity at this point without adding any additional weight, and then we'll build a weight bracket for the front, add weights out there or underneath. I mean, sticking out in the front increases the length of the tractor. There's some appeal to having it underneath the tractor. So, we may go that way as well. We'll see. All right, so that's where we are. I think we're safe to proceed with the construction of the forklift and the mast. First thing I'm going to do is, disassemble. We're going to tear some stuff apart here and see how far we get. This is the wiring harness for the rear tail lights. See if I can disconnect it without cutting any wires here. That works. That's the voltage regulator. I had to take that out because a ground wire was connected to it, and didn't want to have to cut the harness. So that's a basic disassembly of the fender arrangement. They got 4 bolts in each foot pad and then 4 bolts around the battery compartment. The whole fender assembly comes right off. Had a little hassle with the wiring harness, need to make sure that was all disconnected, but we've exposed the rear transmission, the hydrostat. It's got some dirt on it because it's been used, and the rear axle. So this gives us a starting point for mounting the mast assembly for the forklift, which will be attached here between the wheels as close as possible. So we'll be wind up extending this frame or building a subframe that bolts to this, and we'll get into that in a future episode. I think we're going to wrap it up at this point, try to keep this episode a reasonable length. We'll come back with some more disassembly next time. Remove the tunnel cover, which gives access to the drive line. We'll start working on the dash assembly, disassembling parts of that, and pull off the mower deck as well, which is just going to be in the way. But we'll do that in the next episode. All right, that's it for this episode. The dog's in here already. They're back in the shop. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment, or if you got any questions, I'll try to answer them. I read all the comments. We'll see you guys next time. You're a good boy, Butchie. You're a good boy. All right. Later.